On this episode of Growler Talk, Brian and I will break down the roster, position by position group, an early look at the 2018 Kalamazoo Growler. That's next on Growler Talk. Hey there, everybody. I'm Lukas Moore. Sitting right next to me is Brian McLaughlin, and you're going to be hearing our voices a lot. If you are Kalamazoo Growlers fans, this is Growlers Talk. Growler Talk, we took the S off because it's just a little more hip, a little more cool. Brian, this is the first time you and I are ever speaking on air. We're going to do this podcast weekly throughout the season, keeping you updated on the Kalamazoo Growlers and how their season is going. I'm excited to get started.
This is going to be a great season. Very excited to get going, previewing the roster a little bit today. And then just throughout the year, we're going to be bringing you all sorts of Growler baseball, both from this podcast as well as over the air every night, 72 games in 76 days. It's going to be quite the season. I'm very ready to get started, and it's going to be a very exciting time, good year.
Yeah, and hopefully this group is the first Growlers team that makes the playoffs. This is their fifth season of the Kalamazoo Growlers. Winning percentage 372, have not gone above 500. But hopefully this is the year that starts to change things. Before we get down to the roster, before we break it down, though, quick introduction of ourselves, just so the people know where we come from, our experiences in baseball and covering it. Brian,
right.
So you first.
So I'll start. I'm from Central Pennsylvania, and I go to Penn State University in State College. Penn State baseball, cover that a little bit with GoPSUSports.com. I've provided some color commentary there.
Rough year for Penn State baseball.
3-21 in the Big Ten, but we're going to be seeing Jordan Bowersox, who we will talk about throughout the year. He's on our Growlers team this year, one of the more talented outfielders on that team. But I've played baseball my entire life, both in varsity high school baseball as well as travel team with the Altoona Curve Juniors throughout my high school career. And then at Penn State, I've played club baseball. I've done all sorts of different work with both student radio covering the baseball team as well as then, as I said, with GoPSUSports.com as a color commentator, and then many other sports as well that I get into there at Penn State. But baseball, I would say, is by far my favorite sport. It is the sport of the summer, and it's just such a beautiful game, and I'm ready to get started in a full summer's worth of calling games this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to get started as well. I'm from Ohio University. I do play-by-play at Ohio University for high school athletics, football, basketball, a little bit of baseball. My experience in summer baseball, this will actually be my fourth season working in summer collegiate baseball. I've spent 2 years in the Prospect League as a public address announcer and play-by-play announcer, and then I spent 1 season in the Great Lakes League with the Southern Ohio Copperheads back in Athens. I'm excited to be in the Northwoods League, and I can say without a doubt, without even seeing a game, that this league is the premier league in the United States for summer collegiate baseball in terms of operation, fan base, media, player talent. I think all in all, it's definitely the number one league in the United States, and I'm really excited that I get to be a part of it. I've been waiting to be a part of it since I began my summer baseball journey. In terms of baseball experience, I played my entire life, spring, summer, fall, and I actually coached baseball, a 7th grade middle school team, 15-0, plus 194 run differential, so I can coach. I think the numbers support that. I won't be questioned. These guys know way more than I do, though. I'm just coaching 7th graders. So I'm excited to watch a lot more baseball, talk a lot more baseball, and I'm excited for this year to get started. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I think this roster lends itself to a lot of fun, Brian. I think Cody Bachaki in his second season really settled into manager, really did a good job on the recruiting trail. I think he brought in 32 guys at the beginning of the season that are young, but they look talented. They look like they could be a team that if some pieces fall together, they could really compete for that first ever playoff appearance in Growlers history.
And you look at a lot of these teams in the Northwoods League and collegiate summer baseball in general, and it's different players year in, year out. But what you do have some consistency in is the manager, and they can kind of start to build their brand of baseball. And what we're going to see this year, I think, is a lot of speed, a lot of aggressiveness early in the year, and that's something that Coach Pachaki's trying to bring to this team and this roster. He went out, recruited a lot of very good athletes that are going to be able to put pressure on defenses. And in a wood bat league, that's a big key because you're not going to see the same power because these players are adjusting to using a wood bat. So I think that not necessarily small ball, but being aggressive on the base paths and just putting putting pressure on the defenses is going to be a big key this year, and I think that's really part of Coach Pachaki's brand.
And he really Coach Pachaki, we'll talk to him next week, by the way, on Growler Talk, but he really hit his stride in the second half of last season, this team did, and I think he's coming in with a lot of confidence in his guys and his group this year. Now they're going for a youth strategy. Let's look at this roster breakdown, Ryan, before we get into some specific names. Obviously, no technical freshman on the team. There's one redshirt freshman because he didn't play this year. But we're talking this is their year next season. We're saying this is the start of their sophomore season. So if they were a sophomore, they were just a freshman at college. This team has 19 out of 32 sophomores, meaning they just finished up their freshman year of college baseball, meaning for many of them, this will be their first summer collegiate ball experience at this type of level in front of 3,000 fans consistently at Homer Stryker Field. And then you've got 7 juniors and 6 seniors. Now, how does that compare to the rest of the league? Well, let's go ahead and look at the 2 most successful teams in the South Division in the Northwoods League. Battle Creek, of course, Battle Creek just down the road, hated rival I-94 Cup. They have just 7 sophomores on the team. And the Wisconsin Rapids Rafters won the regular season title in the South, won the entire league 2 years ago in 2016. They just have 10 sophomores. So they're going for a youth strategy. Now, the advantage of that, none of these sophomores are going to be drafted. Most of them are eligible to be drafted, so you're not going to lose a lot of guys. They're going to come in maybe with more energy, more focus. I like the youth strategy. I think it's something that could really work for this team, or it's something that could backfire, especially early in the season when everybody's just trying to get used to things.
You mentioned that early in the season. I think that a big key, they might not have the fastest start, but he's going to come out with that aggressive approach and mentality to try to just get these guys to think that they really belong with a lot of these upperclassmen that they're going to be playing against. But I think where it could really come in to something where this team is dangerous is in the second half of the season. And this league is split up into the 2 halves, and if this team can just stay within close striking distance in the first half, win a few games, learn a lot of baseball,
gain some confidence,
fit into the summer league vibe, relying on a few senior leaders that are coming back from last year, and then really in the second half hit their stride, other teams losing players to the draft. I think that then that's when this team can really strike and go on a run, and that's when they become dangerous, and Pachaki's strategy really starts to form within this team. And I think that in the beginning there could be some rough patches as everyone's figuring each other out, figuring out what it's like to play summer league baseball. But I think as the season goes, it's going to be that sticking together mentality that could put this team over the top.
Well, and that's what makes the beginning of the season so interesting for a Growlers fan, because you have this expectation, okay, they're a young team. They could take a little while to get used to things. This is big time baseball for kids these age. So, maybe it's a feel out process, but if this team comes out and they're above 500, they're already competing maybe for that first half playoff spot, that could be really exciting for this team because they're just going to get better as the season goes along. In terms of colleges and where these kids are from, this is more of a fun breakdown. Doesn't matter all that much outside of the colleges. But the states that these kids are from, we've got 2 from Ohio, 3 from Florida, 3 from California, 2 from New Jersey. We've got Maryland represented, 2 from Tennessee, 4 from Michigan. We've got 1 from Missouri, 4 from Indiana, 1 from Washington, 1 from Nevada, 1 from Pennsylvania, 2 from Illinois, 1 from North Carolina, 2 from Georgia, and then Virginia and Texas rounding out the list. So they're coming from all over the country here to Kalamazoo. That's just exciting to think about, that all these guys have all these life experiences from everywhere across the United States.
And that's what makes these summer league teams so interesting, is because a lot of times you see college teams recruit their area. If you're from the Northeast, you're going to recruit guys from maybe the Mid-Atlantic Northeast area. You're from SEC country, obviously you're going to go for guys from Florida and Georgia. But these teams don't really have that geographical limits. And obviously they're going to take some guys from close. It's easier to recruit those guys.
Yep, 4 guys from Michigan leading the way.
Exactly. So and they have 4 from Notre Dame as well. And so you kind of recruit your area in that sense, but it's one of those things where you can still get guys from the ACC, the SEC, the Pac-12, and that's where these leagues really find different styles of baseball playing out as well.
Oh, yeah.
You get to see right now, if you're watching college baseball, as we get into conference tournaments and then the Collegiate World Series, but then it's really something that you can observe in these summer league games as well. Different styles really blending and meshing and seeing how different players perform differently in different circumstances, maybe based on their backgrounds or where they're from. So it's really a fun kind of chemistry within all of these teams across the Northwoods League.
Yeah, it's good for the players. I think it's fun for the fans, seeing guys from everywhere. In terms of colleges, you mentioned Notre Dame. 4 representatives leads the way. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but it's 4 for Notre Dame, and then it's just 2 from a lot of places. We got 2 from Tennessee, 2 from Duke, 2 from Tennessee Tech, a smaller school, 2 from Central Michigan, 2 from Indiana, and then, of course, your school, my school, Penn State, and Ohio University, both with 1 representative. In terms of the colleges, it looks like a kind of normal Northwoods League college. Little more small school guys in the pitching staff than I'm not saying you wouldn't like to see, but then you look across the league, there's going to be a little more ACC, a little more big guys in the pitching staff. But there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of young talent. There's a lot of developing talent. And there's a lot of big-time schools. Virginia represented, Duke represented, Notre Dame, a big-time school represented, Tennessee, very good at baseball, also represented. These are some big-time players from some big-time programs.
Absolutely, and those are what you kind of want to get if you're in the Northwoods League. And if you're in Kalamazoo right now, you have to be excited with some of those schools that you hear. You see places like a Virginia bringing in all sorts of talent. Duke has some major talent, and you are getting those players, especially young players who have, whether it be on the pitching staff, live arms, who are highly touted prospects, or from the batter's side, guys who are clearly great athletes coming to play for your team. That's going to be a great, fun baseball game to watch, knowing you have such a talented roster because you see those big-time brand-name schools that when you think about college baseball, you're thinking about those Virginia, Clemson, that type of school that can bring in that type of talent, and then you can bring that in. That's exciting to think about for fans and anyone around this team.
Well, let's go ahead and move into the roster. Let's go right into it. Let's start with the outfielders. We're going to go through each position group. We're going to talk about them in general, and then we're going to break down 2 guys from each position group that we're taking a look at that through our research early in the season we really thought stood out. They might not be the best, but we really think they're interesting guys that fans should keep an eye on. This is the roster breakdown on Growler Talk. Let's go ahead and start with the outfielders. This is the most experienced group on the team. They've got 2 seniors and a junior in that group, and then just 2 sophomores. So this is the most experienced group without a doubt. And one of those guys with experience is Dan Robinson. But before we really get into him, the outfielder group, I think this could be the strongest group on this team.
I would agree. And this team has a lot of speed bringing to the outfield. That was something Coach Pachaki has talked about prior to this season. They're going to bring speed. They're going to play good, strong defense. They want to cover a lot of ground in this outfield here at Homer Stryker Field, and then really providing the energy on the base paths as well. And that experience and that leadership early in the season is what he's going to be relying on to help these younger guys settle in. So this group is really one of the most vital groups here on this team because they can provide that leadership and that experience as well as some really good talent in this group as well. You see a lot of, you mentioned Dan Robinson, we'll get more into him in just a moment, but this group's talent-wise is as good as anything on this team and can really, I think, carry this team early in the year.
Well, let's get into Dan Robinson. 6'2", 210 pounds, bats left, throws right, from Central Michigan, really one of the standout players in the Mid-American Conference. He's going to be a senior. Grosse Pointe Woods, Michigan, hometown, about 2 hours away from the stadium. This guy, 292 this season, 2 years ago, led the MAC in steals. What's the breakdown on Dan Robinson?
Dan Robinson is an all-around great hitter. He plays, as you mentioned, for Central Michigan. He's been a 3-year starter for them. As a sophomore, started 53 games, played in 59. Didn't have a great year, but his junior year, 2017, Dan Robinson's breakout season, he was one of 2 Chippewas to start 59 games for Central Michigan. He led the MAC in runs and stolen bases with 22 stolen bases, 54 runs scored. Second on the team in batting average, 305. He got on base a ton at 389, had 25 multi-hit games. Just an all-around offensive threat. And then that speed with the 22 stolen bases helps you really patrol the outfield.
Oh, yeah.
And then this year he showed off a little more power. 5 home runs this season with them, still having a few games going in the MAC conference tournament. And so that's a guy that can really bring a lot to this outfield and to this team. He's a senior, going to bring that leadership as well as the talent. Last year played in the prestigious Cape Cod Summer Baseball League with the Hyannis Harbor Hawks, was one of the most successful players there. So this guy is quite the blend of leadership, talent, and just brings a lot to this roster from this area. It's a win-win for both Dan Robinson and the Growlers.
Yeah, I like the Dan Robinson pickup a lot. I think that's good speed. I think Dan Robinson is the leading favorite early in the season in terms of, I haven't had a chance to talk with Coach Pachaki. I don't know what he's thinking in terms of lineup. I'm not even sure if he knows what he's thinking in terms of lineup, but Dan Robinson might be a guy as that slotted in as that leadoff hitter if you're just looking through the stats, through the college numbers, through the recruiting trail, I think Dan Robinson has a chance to be a big-time contributor for this team. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to Zach Daniels, another outfielder, another speed. Now, I picked him out. Zach Daniels out of Tennessee. He's a sophomore, just finished his freshman season. And if you look at the numbers, you kind of, you close your eyes because the kid batted 161 and he struck out 40 times in just 93 at-bats. And Tennessee really cut down on his playing time, hasn't played since May 1st. That is just something that you look at and you don't get too excited for. But the reason that I'm excited for Zach Daniels is this kid is just a raw athlete. No doubt about it. Has probably the best bat speed on this team. He hit 5 home runs in just 93 at-bats in SEC competition. And his first career hit was a grand slam. Last person to do that at Tennessee, Nick Senzel, who's the number 1 prospect in the Cincinnati Reds organization. Currently, he was ranked a top 50 prospect nationally coming up. He runs a 6'4", 560. He's fast. He's got all the tools, 5-tool guy. And the one positive, though, 161 batting average, but that on-base percentage, 339. That's salvageable. If he comes in and has a 339 on-base percentage and hits with the power he has from the right side of the plate, what is it, 306 in left field here at Homer Stryker Field? So it's just, if he has that type of power, that type of talent, and can get on base on a decent clip, he could be an explosive player for Kalamazoo.
He is one of the guys that we see a lot of, similar to in the major league right now, where we see you strike out a lot, you walk a lot, and you hit a lot of home runs. He's that typical kind of major league guy. He has those 5 home runs, clearly showing off the power. 40 strikeouts. That's a lot.
That's way too many. That's not going to be sustainable. But that's something he could cut down on this summer. That could be something he works on.
But then he also walks 24 times, which shows he has a knowledge of the strike zone, is patient. And so I think that there's clearly a lot there to like about Zach Daniels. And he's a guy that I think could come in. It's his first year playing summer ball in one of these collegiate leagues. Could really take the next step. You see a lot of these guys go from their freshman to sophomore years, take a big step forward numbers-wise. I think this could be a big springboard. And as he sees more playing time throughout this summer, could really take a big step forward, cut down on those strikeouts, like you said, can continue to hit for power, and be the guy for Tennessee in the years to come with that raw potential.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that walks on the baseball field and everybody says, who is that? That's the type of athlete Zachary Daniels is, the sophomore out of Tennessee. Let's go ahead and move on to the infielders and the catchers. We're combining them. This is the exact opposite of the outfielders. This is the youngest group on the team, 8 sophomores, and all 3 of the catchers are sophomores in this group. This worries me. I'm going to be honest, because infield catching, that's where the most involvement is. You have to have experience to be technically sound there. It's a talented group, no doubt about it. But, maybe shortstop, second baseman communication isn't there right away. I'm not sure what mistakes the catchers could make, but there could be something there just from the youth. And that's why it worries me slightly that this group is so young.
Catcher specifically, I think, is one that, while these guys are very talented, you have not worked with any of these pitchers before, and that bond is something so important in the battery right there between your pitcher and catcher. I think the infielders are young, but they're very talented from a lot of these big-name schools. Duke, Virginia, Clemson are going to be able to figure it out, and their talent will play. The catcher position, though, it's more than just talent. You need that chemistry. You need to understand how to call a game, and you need to be able to have that trust with your pitcher. And so that, to me, is something that you have to look at, and every team will struggle with that, developing that trust early, but I think it's something that definitely will need to be looked at and definitely monitored throughout the season.
Well, one of those guys that comes from a big school that is young is Joey Loperfido. That's going to be our toughest name, I think, this season. We're going to get it right. 6'4", 200 pounds, left-handed hitter out of Duke, just finished his freshman season. And this is ACC baseball, and this guy is batting .308 right now. They're still in the tournament. He's hit 6 home runs. And check this out. He's stolen 13 bases on the year, a top 15 prospect in the state of New Jersey. This guy is about everything you can ask for, probably going to slot in at first base. And with 315 and right here at Homer Stryker Field, he could have the ball leaving the yard a lot.
That guy is someone you look at similar to Daniels. You walk on the field, everyone just notices you. You fill out 6'4", 200 pounds, but then he has the numbers at Duke to back it up. Where Daniels, you see the upside. Loperfido is showing it off right now at Duke. The power, the speed. He's hitting for average. He's getting on base. This guy is coming in right now. is going to be a sophomore next year, just a complete stud, could carry this team. I see him slotting in the middle of the order and just carrying this team offensively at times.
And he's a guy is going to be around all season because he just finished his first season of collegiate ball. So that, barring bad luck, knock on wood, this guy's going to be around all season long for the Kalamazoo Growlers. I'm really excited about Lope Verdito. Now, you like Kamen Richardson, the shortstop, out of Virginia, just finished his sophomore season. Hometown's Mechanicsville, Virginia, 6'1", 175. Tell us about Kamen.
Very rangy player, as you said, 6'1", 175. Virginia is a big-time baseball school there in the ACC. They've won national championships. Richardson is a guy, did not play very much as a freshman. This year's a sophomore. They put him in there. Very sound defensive player. Makes all the plays at shortstop, which you need if you're going to compete in a division like the ACC and in the Northwoods League. Well, last year, as a freshman, he just had a .231 batting average. He did hit a triple, .302 on base percentage. This year bumped it up a little bit, .248 batting average in more at-bats. He started to continue to just hit for a better average, get more comfortable as a batter. Their season's still going, potential ACC tournament. This is a guy that I think could really find his stride here in the Northwoods League and is going to be an important player as well, as he is going into his junior year, one of the most experienced players against high-level competition on anyone on this team. I think Richardson is an important player if this team's going to succeed.
And Kamen is a guy that has a winning attitude, 3 state championships in high school. That is crazy. When you have a guy with a winning attitude like that, it can be infectious to the team, especially such a young group in the infielders, that if Kamen is roaming shortstop, demanding victories, demanding excellence, that could be something to look out for in terms of a leadership position for Kamen Richardson. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to the pitchers, probably the most important group on this team, as pitching, as anybody that follows baseball knows, is the most important part. And I'm going to go ahead and state this out because we're just looking at the numbers. We're looking at their bios. We're looking at some game film from their college seasons. Pitching in summer collegiate baseball is just throwing darts at a dartboard most of the time. You're going to have your studs. You're 96 mile per hour from Virginia. There's no way this guy's going to have over a 3.5 ERA. But a lot of times it's small school guys that have some good stuff, that need polish, that can have a good run in the season, that can have a 3.5 ERA. And then some guys are expected to be studs and aren't there. So we're just picking out 2 guys that we find interesting. Could be at the end of the season that they weren't interesting at all. Pitching is like the biggest wild card at all times, especially with this roster. It's just a wild card for the Kalamazoo Growlers. I don't know if it's great. I don't know if it's bad. It's just somewhere in the middle. It's a wild card.
I tell you what, you mentioned it is a wild card. This league is known for producing some top-level pitching talent. 2 of the top 3, in my opinion, best pitchers in the MLB right now, Chris Sale, Max Scherzer, both came out of the Northwoods League. And so that shows that this league has some elite arms, some elite pitching prospects. Maybe haven't put it together yet in college, but this is a chance for them to show some consistency and really get in on their mechanics and just put it all together. It's not always going to work out. As you mentioned, you're pulling in guys who maybe from a smaller school have a really good ERA, or a high-touted recruit that have a relatively inflated ERA at a bigger school, but maybe you put them in the right situation and they can turn into leading your team to the playoffs. And just that ace can be the difference. Now,
I said that it's about throwing darts at a dartboard. Well, I picked the biggest question mark and the biggest dart out of the entire team to break down. Connor Adams out of Tennessee Tech. And the reason he is the biggest dartboard, he was redshirted this year at Tennessee Tech because he transferred from Louisville, one of the best baseball schools in the country. He was a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, went to St. Ignatius out of Shaker Heights, Ohio. I'm familiar with that school. They are incredible at sports. They play in a very good league, very good competition. In his senior year of high school, the last time he ever pitched, finished with a 5-0 record, a 0.16. Yes, let me say it again. 0.16 ERA and 76 strikeouts. The ERA led all Ohio pitchers, Ohio, one of the best baseball states in the country, led all Ohio pitchers in ERA. This guy is just, he's a wild card because we didn't see him in pitch in college. We don't know how he will do against college competition. He didn't get to pitch this year, but he was a highly touted recruit coming out, the 3rd-ranked left-handed pitcher coming out in Ohio. Connor Adams out of Tennessee Tech, 6'1", 195, a lefty. He's dying to pitch. I know that he's just dying to get on the mound. I think he's going to be motivated. I think he's going to be determined. I think he's got the talent level. He could be one of those guys that is a sneaky ace.
I tell you what, and he's going to be motivated because, as you mentioned, he hasn't pitched very much in college yet. This is his first chance to show scouts what he has and really prove, like, hey, I belonged at Louisville. We're not totally sure the circumstances of that transfer, but he's going to
He went to fall practice at Louisville, so we're just not sure on that.
So this is his opportunity to say, I can pitch in big-time college baseball. I think you're right. I think he is going to be hungry to pitch. He's going to come out aggressive, attacking the zone, I imagine, and just be one of those guys that, you're right, has the potential to be a shutdown ace-type pitcher in this league.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Connor Adams. Just excited to see what it is. I mean, even if he ends up being a 4.0 ERA guy, that's really successful in terms of coming to the Northwoods League as your first collegiate baseball experience. And doing something like that would be very impressive. I have to give a shout out to Derek Carr because goes to Ohio University and get this, he also played for the Copperheads, the team I worked for last year. I guess he's following me around or something. He had a 4.13 ERA this past spring with Ohio, made a big time jump, made that jump in Summer League last year. That's what you like to see. He had a 20 ERA his freshman year, Derek Carr did, then makes that big jump, has a 3.5 with the Copperheads, and then has a 4.13 this spring for Ohio University. That's the jump you'd like to see a lot of the Growlers players make from their freshmen into their sophomore seasons. But a picture that you wanted to highlight, Matt Mervis, another Duke guy, and just let me read the height and weight, and this should get you excited. The righty is 6'4", 225 pounds, out of Maryland. And this year, his sophomore season, really started to showcase some of that talent at Duke. Really started to pitch better than he ever has in his collegiate career.
The big fella is clearly talented, drafted by the Washington Nationals out of high school, 39th round, 1,174th overall. But that is something anyone who's drafted out of high school, has some elite talent.
Oh, yeah.
And he comes in, he's a hard thrower, has struggled at times with the strike zone, but coming primarily out of relief this year for Duke, I expect to see him slotted late, maybe a closer type role for this team. Could really show some electric stuff out of the bullpen. He's going to throw hard, going to challenge you with the fastball, and he could have that closer mentality. Comes in going into his junior season. Last year pitched a couple games, again with the Hyannis Harbor Hawks in the Cape Cod Baseball League. Only through 2 games, 3 innings pitched, 4 walks in those 2 games. That's something that you want to see him cut down on.
Yeah, but it's a small sample size. This year at Duke, 4.91 ERA, much better in high-level competition. And it's just a guy, he's making improvements every season, from spring to summer, then back to spring, another jump and improvement. And we're hoping that it's another jump for the Growlers.
And another aspect to this guy that I really like, and with all these rosters here in the Northwoods League, guys are coming and going throughout the season, whether it's the draft, signing with teams, as their baseball season in college comes to an end for the year, they join. So they're part-time players all year throughout the season, and there's going to be needed a lot of versatility for a lot of these players. This guy, Matt Mervis, was a stud infielder as well, rated the 18th best third baseman nationally by Perfect Game. And so this is a guy that if we're maybe low on position players, you could see him pinch hitting, had some success at Duke, had 2 doubles as a freshman at Duke. This year had a hit.
He could even be a regular infielder, Shohei Ohtani level. That's seen a lot more in collegiate than it is at the major leagues.
Absolutely. So there's a little bit of extra there for Matt Mervis that we could end up seeing, as well as just on the pitcher side. I think he has the potential to play a variety of different roles for this Growlers team, which, as we know, the versatile players in leagues like this can become very valuable if they can plug in at different positions and are flexible with where they bat in the batting order. There's going to be a lot of fluidity throughout the rosters of this season for any team in the Northwoods League as players come and go, and I think Mervis is a big aspect of that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is this roster of 32. It will change. There will be players removed. There will be players added. There will be temporary players coming and going. But this core group of 32, I think there are a lot of guys that if they just make a little jump, they could be really talented. I think they're going to be motivated. They want to win. There's not a lot of guys on this team that are thinking about the draft in June. There's not. There's just simply not. Now, you can say that's a negative because of talent, but you can say it's a positive because they're here to win baseball games. They're not here to worry about what their signing bonus is going to be in June. They're worried about winning baseball games. That could be a positive for the team. I like Pachaki's strategy. Go young, go quick, go aggressive, and see what happens. I think that this could be the organization, the Kalamazoo Growlers. Great reputation is starting to build throughout college baseball, that this is a place where you want to send players. And I think that that could really showcase itself this year with some high-level recruits, some big high-level guys that are young, hungry, and ready to win.
Exactly, and I think as this year, going to be the 4th year for Kalamazoo Growlers, as Pachaki continues to build on his relationships with these collegiate coaches. You're seeing he's getting big things from big programs like Notre Dame and Duke. And I continue to go back to Loper Fido because he is clearly arguably the most talented guy who is putting it together already in college. If he continues on that path that he is right now in college, just putting up the same numbers, you're looking at potential first-team All-ACC, high-level draft pick, and you are going to get to see him continue to put it together this year. And there are many guys like that. He is just the most outstanding one at this moment.
That's a guy that Growlers fans can peg as that's the first major leaguer that plays for the Kalamazoo Growlers.
I would agree. I think that if you look at right now, this roster has a couple guys with that potential, but Loper Fido is the guy that I'm coming to watch every night here at Homer Stryker Field. He could really put it together and have, I think, the potential for an MVP type season for the Growlers.
And the nice thing about summer baseball is the best two guys, the most exciting guys, might not even be guys that we got to mention in today's podcast. We encourage you to go to Kalamazoo Growlers. Well, go to growlersbaseball.com, check out the roster. See some of these guys for yourself. We'll be releasing some roster preview articles. We got a lot of content planned coming out before opening day, which is May 29th. Make sure you're getting your tickets for this season for Growlers baseball because it is going to be the most exciting, the most fun, the most action-packed. What do we have? Fireworks nights every Friday home game. There's just so much to do at Homer Stryker Field this year, and these baseball players, I think, are going to bring us a show and possibly the best season in Growlers baseball history. The potential is there. I'm excited, Brian. I'm excited to get on the road with you,
great.
calling baseball games. Hopefully a lot of victories in those games. If they're not victories, I might start to dislike you just a tad.
Is that how this is going to work?
Yeah, no, it's the success on the team depends how I feel about you every night.
All right, well, we'll see how that goes. I guess I'm really hoping that the team plays well then. My fate kind of depends on how well this group puts it together, I suppose.
Oh, we will see. It's going to be a lot of fun. We hope you guys get a chance to listen to us all season long. And please, follow us on social media, follow us on Instagram, and be the best Growlers fan possible because we know we have the best fans in the Northwoods League. Brian, any final thoughts?
It's going to be a great season, as you've said, and it's going to be a team with a lot of talent. And then at Kalamazoo, the front office works very hard to put together an all-around experience for our fans. These games are going to be spectacular, and you're going to get to see a great product on the field. It's really the full package here at Kalamazoo this year. So whether you're coming out to the ballpark or tuning into me and Lukas all year, it's going to be a very exciting season, and we hope you are just as excited as the two of us are.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Look out next Monday. We should have an interview with manager Cody Pachaki and really break down that first series against the Lakeshore Chinooks. And then a 4-game set right early in the season against the Battle Creek Bombers.
Let's go.
Let's see if the Growlers can turn around their fate in that I-94 rivalry series. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Growler Talk for Brian McLaughlin. I'm Lukas Moore. We'll see you guys next time.